under 50 years old, as a male, 50% of under 50 do not get an annual physical. Many of them do not have a direct primary care. This is a huge problem in our country. There's not an easy way. You don't know who you're going to see. You don't have a relationship. It's so transactional, insurance-based. My whole mission is I think 25-year-olds need to have their blood checked. Hey guys, welcome back to another Rest, Eat, Move podcast. It's Matt and Chris in the studio. Maybe you're aware, as I recorded the last couple podcasts, I kind of talked about it, but I'm going to share with you this kind of process, this journey where I'm kind of taking my health from good to great, or from where I want it to go. We partnered with this company called VO Health, VEO Health, and they're a kind of a functional medicine, biometric screening. They have coaches and dietitians and doctors. In my case, I'm kind of using it as my direct primary care physician at 39 years old. But I'll get into all of that, and I have over 150 biomarkers, a DEXA scan. We'll talk about how I feel, maybe the things that I think actually matter more than just some numbers. But a lot of people always ask us, what do we think about getting your numbers? Where do we get numbers? We're going on this journey together, and just a little caveat. The point is not to compare my numbers to your numbers or your numbers to my numbers, or to compare anybody. It's really to figure out how you go inward and ask the questions of how good should you feel or could you feel? What kind of function or fitness do you want? And maybe what your numbers used to be and where they should go, because we're all different. But here we go. So I got my father in here. I'm going to pretend like I'm coming in to coach with him. He's got all this data and information. He's going to ask me questions, look at the numbers. We'll share the numbers if you're watching video. We want to make this as open and transparent because these are the questions we get every day. So, Coach, thanks for how much do you charge for this session?
I was just going to ask you, how much are you going to pay me?
Well, you'll have to invoice me.
And we'll do what we always do. You won't ever pay me.
I don't know. There's some.
I'll
Venmo you.
I'm waiting for the Venmo. You know, I think this is really a good exercise because we deal with this all the time. But medical illiteracy, very similar to financial illiteracy, is never been higher. And so that's one of the reasons why we like to talk about this, because again, if you don't really fall in line, you go to your doctor or whatever, then things can be a problem. I just had a call last night, and this gentleman walked in, first time he met his primary care doctor, never met him before, and took his blood pressure. Blood pressure's too high, gave him a medication, cholesterol's out of balance, gave him a medication, thyroid's out of, never even had a conversation about, tell me about you, he's just turned 60 years old. So that's the challenge we're facing here. So I have all your numbers. The first thing I want to if I'm coaching somebody, the first thing I always want to talk about is curiosity. So all I want you to, as we move forward, you got to start asking better questions. The key is to learn, not just being told. So I think that's where the curiosity comes when you're talking to your health professionals. You want to walk in and create a dialogue. So that's number one, is curiosity, asking better questions. The second piece I try to get with everybody is really just to understand your beliefs. So I want to know what you believe, because if I don't know what you believe, or maybe we start uncovering, then some of the recommendations, you're going to put your hand up. So
lie.
Yeah. Or lie. And so
say, yeah, I'll do that.
So for example, I'll ask people, how often are they moving? So if you don't have a place and time to move, and you don't, well, I'm moving, well, really you're not. So let's understand that you don't have to spend an hour and a half in the gym, because that might be their belief, or people are judging them. So we got to go into why they're not doing what they're doing and what their limiting beliefs have been in the past. So I kind of want to know that if they believe that carbohydrates make them fat and they're trying to lose weight, they're probably going to skip carbohydrates. So we're not going to get the optimization that we're looking for. So those are the two things I like to start with: understanding about curiosity and asking better questions, and understanding what your beliefs are and what's holding sometimes you back. So anyway, as a listener, a viewer, you might want to do that. So first thing I want to talk to you about is, why don't you explain what your top 4 goals or drivers are? So what's the first one?
The first one when it comes to my health is fitness and function is number 2. as we came in here, I kind of rattled them off. What did I write down as
Well,
number
you
one?
wrote down, and again, you're in a season of your life. You're going to be 30. You're 39.
Oh, space. Yeah, so that's funny. I didn't have enough pace or space in my brain.
So the first one is let's talk about your pace and space, stress, where you are with your family. I want to know that, because if you don't know that, the other stuff's going to be. I mean, that's why we're here, right?
Yeah. So number one, thank you. That's kind of funny that I actually forgot the most important of them. The most important happens to be the one that's the most elusive, hard to measure, is more space. And in my case, it's really, I know when I give myself the space, I'm very patient. I'm very thoughtful. When I don't, most people probably wouldn't even notice, but I notice. So for me, I have 3 kids, 9, 7, 6. I have a business. I have a wife. And we all have a lot of those different things.
Yeah, so the season you're in right now, it's a very busy season.
Yeah, so I like to explain one of the things that really has been a challenge, a great thing, but a challenge is Hadley. So Hadley's our middle daughter, and she has a genetic disorder. And so to give you an example is I have to get her, or my wife have to get her off the bus at 3:45 to 4:20. That's literally the range of when the bus could come. So I have to get everything that I need done before 3:45. And once she gets off the bus, it's go time. Mm-hmm. She may want to drive her Power Wheel, ride her bike, sneak off to a neighbor's house, make a little bit of a mess. And so she's amazing, she's thriving, but she requires a little bit more attention.
Well, I had to laugh. You were coaching as is football, and Holly was out of town, and so you said, "Hey, can you come over and watch the girls?" And so I come over there, and I said, "Yeah, new sheriff's coming in town." And after I watched,
sheriff resigned.
Sheriff taps out. So.
Sheriff resigns. So anyway, again, just to give you behind the scenes, over the last 5, 6, 7, 9 years, 3 kids, a business, COVID, different things. My health, I say it took a backseat. When I say that with a grain of salt. I still exercise. I love to eat healthy. I'm very curious.
You're just not as intentional as you were.
Yeah, my rituals and habits of the things that I built for 30 some years have been disrupted in many ways, and that's not any abnormal.
No, that's what we're talking about.
For most people listening, You're thinking, well, yeah, everyone has it. So for me, the space is a tough thing, and you got to find different times. But for me, I need space before work, so that's more I go to the gym. That's my time. I need that time. I can exercise different times of the day. We have a beautiful space here. But for me to actually have that space, I need to reset my mind right before
so again,
work.
first thing, we'll talk about movement in a little bit, but that's what you kind of have to reverse engineer, and it's like, when am I going to get, because your pace of your life's not going to change right now. So the pace, remember everybody, take a look at your pace. Different seasons, you might not be able to do much with that.
Well, that's a good example. So from a pace standpoint, I actually knew I needed to reinvest in this area because I could feel it. But for the last 2 years, as our business changed quite a bit. We sold a building. I knew I actually needed another 2-ish years to where I really could focus on this. And you may say that's a long time. I gave myself some space, but right now is a time where actually the pace has slowed down in some aspects where I now can't just fill that in. I have to reprioritize where that space is going to go.
And then again, part of the pace and space, we'll talk about rest too. You feel like you are a pretty good sleeper, but you're scheduling massage or just some time away. Let people.
That's a great example. For the last 2 years, as I knew I needed more space, I started scheduling these massages on Monday morning at 9 a.m. once a month. Because like many people, you schedule it for Friday. It sounds real good. Friday comes and there's a fire or something to put out and you bunt it down the street. So I think I've gone 7 to 9 times in the last 12 months.
Yeah, so the first goal for you is to really sit back and take a look at your calendar, the amount of time you have, how do I protect that, how do I bring it in? And again, same thing with your wife, Holly. How do we do that? And you have a place up in northern Michigan. That's another thing. But again, this is a big one because if you don't have this space taken care of, it's hard to do this. So the second one, you talked about fitness and functionality. So walk me through.
Yeah, that kind of encompasses a lot of things. So to me, fitness is a broad definition for just the function that I have. So fitness can be body fat percentage. It can be what I run a 5-minute mile or a mile in, which I'd like to get back to about 5:30. Obviously, I've always set that goal of about a 5-minute, but I've had a little calf injury and some other things that have gotten away. Body fat I'd like to decrease. We'll talk about visceral fat, strength, so pull-ups, whatever metrics. I haven't really defined those, but yeah, just being able to function, flexibility, mobility. I plan to do
So then you're going to get a little bit more granular on very specific things. For example, you were saying I'd like to run a mile in 5 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, like today I went out for a mile and I ran it in between 6 minutes and 6:30, and that was pretty challenging.
So you're saying in what, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, I want to kind of hit some of these functionality numbers?
Yeah, so by January we're going to be in the best shape I've been in my life. By 40, which is next June, I'm gonna feel.
Wow.
Yeah.
40.
How old are you?
I'm 50, so I had you when we were 10. So this is really a good number for a lot of people out there, is that don't just say it like, I want to do 10 perfect pull-ups.
Yeah, and I'm putting it out in the world. We got thousands of people
and then
listen.
I want to do, and again, we'll videotape some of this stuff, but I want to run a 5:30 mile, that's pretty fast.
Yeah, so again, let's go backwards. I think everyone should know, because we're all in different spots. So 2020 hit, COVID and whatever, gym shut down. But I was in pretty good shape then, and I set out, okay, it's not going to get any easier to break this 5-minute mile. So I started training with a trainer and doing some of the things, and then I got that calf injury, which was really a fascial problem, and it's taken me a long time. So what happens, you get outside of your normal. I couldn't run for a year and a half. I'd go for a run and it literally would feel like
feel it coming.
My calf was going to either cramp or tear, but it feels pretty good right now, which is ironic as we're talking about this journey, this process. But there'll be a lot of specific measurements. Obviously, right now I'm in the kind of the baseline phase. Where are you at? Because if you don't know where you're at, if you're not measuring, you don't have this data.
That awareness.
Yeah, so if I'm talking about cholesterol as we get to that, and you're looking at me and thinking, well, I don't even know my cholesterol.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But I think the first thing you just mentioned here is that self-awareness, like, where am I? And then don't get crazy with it. But then you can get tactical and have your strategies and how to get to those numbers.
And it might maneuver. You might get into this and you say, well, I have a blind spot. I didn't realize I have such a limited mobility. That might become a form and function.
Well, I was reading, living with a Navy SEAL, and one of the things I had goals for how many push-ups. Can I do 200 push-ups in 10 minutes? After a little while, I'm like, I don't really care about that. I'd rather be able to do 50 push-ups or X versus all this endurance
Again,
stuff.
back to someone else's goal.
Yeah. And so I thought, okay, let's just give this a whack, but that's not really what I wanted to do.
Running a marathon does nothing for me.
Right.
So in some people, it's the ultimate life goal.
Yeah, so again, leaving this second goal for everybody out there is really get specific at what you want to do. Like, for example, we were water skiing last weekend. That could be a goal for people. I was talking to my sister, and we're talking about snow skiing next year. She's had, she had hip replacements, so she's been worried about that.
Well, I think everybody as a kid could do monkey bars. That might be something that you have some awareness that most people haven't done monkey bars. And
well, I'm out there with your daughter last week, and
she can do monkey bars.
She can do a muscle up, and I'm like, I can't do that. So anyway, it's interesting. All right, so number 3 was your body weight, and currently you're at 194. Is that correct?
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
Yeah, I mean I had a DEXA scan. The DEXA scan's actually, in the case of weight, actually very forgiving.
Yeah,
scales between 196, 197. I could probably get down pretty easily to low 190s, but it's right in that space.
Yeah, and the goal is you're trying to get maybe closer to 180.
Yeah, for the last 2-3 years, I probably have gained 10 to 12
Yeah, so,
pounds.
You're looking at, 10 plus pounds, whatever. But I want to stop there just for a second, because a lot of people get sideways in this. Walk us through what you did at DEXA scan. So what is this?
Yeah, so when you look at the DEXA scan, and I'll throw it up here. So the DEXA scan does multiple different things. In the case of body fat, so it's going to do a total body fat, which my body fat percentage was 25.8 on the DEXA. Now, they don't love talking about the BMI because that can be offset by,
Right. That's body mass index.
yeah, you might be more muscular. So that was,
Yeah, it's not very accurate.
that was 27.2. But the real thing that really matters is the VAT mass, which is your visceral fat, and you got ratios. And so there's this section in your thoracic above your belly button that all the data states that if you're storing your fat in that area, it can be very high risk. It's
Yes.
unhealthy. So cancer, heart disease, function, mobility, comfortability. So this doesn't lie. So over the last 5 years, I didn't just get on a scale and you notice, oh my gosh, you're at 195, and most of the time I'm at 180. You could see it. You could feel it. Different shirts. You know, it's funny. I wore size medium shirt for my whole life, and I'm more of a size large shirt because I wear a pretty tight shirt.
Yeah, you give me a bunch of your pants and shorts.
Yeah, you got them. So, but that's part of
Yeah.
the aging process. But this really kind of shows you at the granular level, and you're looking at, you can see your bone. So that's kind of talking about visceral and body fat. And then in the DEXA, you can get your spine. So L1 to L4, and just for a grain of salt, everyone's going to have different compensations. My
Sure.
L4 has a little degeneration. I've played college golf and play golf. That's not an uncommon thing. So you kind of see where you're at and where the baseline is and the ratio. And then they really can do a bone density. So you're looking at all your skeletal muscle, and they can kind of find some things maybe you're worried about. Now, here's the deal. I'm not going to get too caught up in it. But what I'm really excited about is in the next 3 months, as I go on this journey, I'm going to go do this again.
Correct.
And so we're going to compare it, because the key is the comparison over time. It's not the where are you in one point in time. So once upon a time, if it was 10 years ago and your DEXA scan looks the same, you're probably doing pretty good. If it's way out of balance, something happened.
So let's step back for a second. So if I don't do a DEXA scan, this is kind of how I look at it. So way back in the day when I was in grad school, we did underwater weighing.
I did that too.
You get in the pool and do all that stuff. Super accurate. But who's going to do that? Where are you going to do it? Whatever.
Yeah.
And then
I don't even think they teach it anymore with the bod pods.
No, and then they had the bod pod came out, and the bod pod was the deal, and everybody didn't like
$10,000.
Yep, everybody didn't like the bod pod because they always thought it overestimated how much fat in reality is probably pretty accurate, right? And the electrical impedance is another tool. But here's one of the things I tell everybody. Number one, you have to have courage to measure, but you got to get on a scale. Just get on a scale. It doesn't have to be electrical impedance. Get on the scale. Number two is get a belt, and that is it. You get on the scale, you have a belt, and you look in the mirror, and it doesn't lie. So if you think I'm kind of judgmental on the mirror, then just get on the scale and put the belt on. Or maybe get a piece of clothing that's super snug on you and put it somewhere, and maybe put it there to remind you. So we don't have to get super technical here, but if you just kind of do that. But for most people, if I sit down and ask them, what did you weigh in college or pre-college or whatever, that's something that just went right over them, because we don't weigh. I saw that they had a thing on some show I was looking at, and they had the fat man in the circus, and the fat man in the circus looks just an average guy today, right? So when you think of Ozempic and obesity and type 2 diabetes, whatever, the bottom line is, what weight do you want to be, or where you're currently at, and where do you want to be, and then incrementally work backwards. But don't get crazy with it. Just, I have a lot of guys that come to see me, men, that are 230, 240, 250, and I said, what would it look like for you to weigh 200? And the same thing with women. So anyway, that's number 3. And then number 4 on your goals, we just have 4 of them here, but this is a big one. This is your blood work. So let's walk through. And again, for those, as you'll see on the screen here, how many metrics did you have?
There's 150.
150.
Yeah, 17 systems in the body. So they're really just trying to look at the whole function of the body.
So before everybody glazes over, make this really simple. This is called Know Your Numbers. And so what you do is you just fill this out. And I tell my clients, transcribe what you currently have, 150 metrics. We can go into some of the
Yeah.
detailed ones, but the big ones are going to be right here.
Yeah.
And that you just compare
And
apples
those
to
are, a
apples.
lot of them are pretty common. These are going in different directions.
Correct.
So like nutritional, that is probably new for many people. Looking at your nutritional levels.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. So just to let everybody know, this is very simple. It's on our website under the downloads, and this is what you would bring to your doctor and say, hey, I'd like these tests to begin with. You're doing a lot more of those.
Well, again, and then I'll make so under 50 years old as a male, 50% of under 50 do not get an annual physical. Many of them do not have a direct primary care. This is a huge problem in our country because you need referrals and maybe you don't have a reason to go. After you get out of sports, why are you going to get a physical? And so I think it's a problem. I think it's a problem because there's not an easy way. You don't know who you're going to see. You don't have a relationship. It's so transactional, insurance based. For me, one part of my journey, you're a little bit different at 68. You've had a primary care for many years and you're at a different season. But
it's a call we get almost daily.
Yeah,
I don't have a primary care doc. Where do I get one?
Yeah, so I went through the VO thing, and it's kind of my primary care. So I get to talk to a physician. There's a nutritionist. There's a coach.
They get to know you.
So this is maybe a little bit deeper, but think about, again, you're asking these questions. You're thinking, my whole mission is I think 25-year-olds need to have their blood checked, but it's not happening. Because then you can't go back when you're 30, 35.
So that's the thing we always talk about this, but if you could go back in time, you want to have these numbers to compare.
So I have some numbers that I can compare and we can talk, but let's talk about these 150 tests.
Let's start with the big ones first. So we talk about cholesterol ratio. And there's two ratios we like to discuss because there's lots of rabbit holes we could go down. But if you looked at your first ratio, your total cholesterol, 233. If you didn't know this, you would be put on a statin med. And your HDL is 45.
Yes.
And so you divide the 45 into the 233, and that gives you a ratio of 5.2. The goal here is we want to get you under 4.5. Women for 3.5. So everybody just understand, take your total cholesterol, divide your HDL into that. That gives you your total cholesterol to HDL ratio, women 3.5, men 4.5. So that's the first one. The second one is your triglycerides, which are 135. And you divide the HDL into that, which is 45, and that gives you a ratio of 3. And ideally, everybody, that number should be less than 2. And if you don't ask for this number, because you'll get these numbers, but if you don't look at it yourself, they're not going to talk about it. So those are the two big ones. And then you got other tests. You got the particle sizes of cholesterol and all that kind of stuff. But before you have to go down that rabbit hole, you want to know what your risk is. And that for you is now you can see both these numbers you would like to improve. So if I was sitting down and coaching you, which I am, I would say, hey, we want to come back. And ideally, your thriving number needs to be 4.0 under your cholesterol HDL ratio. Doesn't have to have it today or tomorrow, but this number will move. And this one will move very quickly. I'd like to see your triglyceride HDL ratio to be 1.5 or less. So you're going to cut that in half. And that can be easily done by changing your triglycerides, and that's how you eat.
Yeah, right? So when we look back in 2022, I had my blood checked, and triglycerides were about 90. The ratio was in line. And so you look back and you say, okay, what's happened over these years? And I have kind of a hypothesis of why these numbers have moved without really saying that it's an extremely high risk for heart disease. So if you go back to
2022, you had a triglyceride to HDL ratio of 2.
Yeah.
Now it's at 3. So this is what's cool about numbers is that if you don't know them, how do you change them? So to me, now you have those numbers.
And then there's another example. So I'm looking at these and on this, and for many tests, you're going to see red and greens. I don't get caught up in red and greens because we're going to look at the whole body and the whole picture. So triglycerides are 135. That's terrible for me.
That would be considered normal.
It's under 150, so it's green.
So let everybody know if it's not under 100, you're not doing well nutritionally.
Yeah, so that number right there, I don't have to look at any of the other numbers. It's telling you what you need to change or what you're doing. So I actually had this blood check done after a week vacation up north where we're having ice cream and having fun, and that number will move in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, so that's the beautiful thing about triglycerides, everybody. They will change very quickly. It's like flossing. You can't lie to your dental hygienist about flossing when you're not. It's no different triglycerides.
And so now we do know that the biggest risk to determine a heart attack is the triglycerides.
Triglycerides.
It's not the total cholesterol, but they all go hand in hand.
Yeah,
and
they
so
all
it's
work
a full,
together.
Full picture. So yeah, the ratio is really the thing that I'm.
All right. So the second big one is your glucose to A1C, and your A1C is at 5.3, which is completely normal. That's the sensitivity of the cell.
But my fasting glucose, again, I took this after a week vacation, was a little bit more elevated for me. And so
you can pay attention to that.
Triglyceride. I really like this in the health that I got. It's the triglyceride to glucose index. This is kind of a newer type of a thing, but it's really telling you that connection between what you're eating, triglycerides,
to your glucose.
And really we're trying to talk about insulin sensitivity. We can go real deep.
And again, what you're saying is that your triglycerides and your glucose A1C is completely connected.
They're all connected. And so then it's telling you how your cells are functioning, which is a big important thing, making sure. But it's really telling you, okay, am I drifting to more of a sensitivity, an insulin sensitivity?
So if I'm coaching you, I would say, you know what? The good news is your cells are very sensitive, which is a good thing. You might have an elevated glucose.
But it can handle it right now.
Can handle it now, maybe not down the road. Hence, people have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, which many people call. If you don't know these numbers, then all of a sudden...
I'd be medicated. Now, let's back up. I feel good. I'm sleeping symptomatically very low.
And you're very functional. You can do everything, right?
Yeah. But what we're trying to talk about is looking inward and saying, okay.
Is you.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. So again, there's connected. We're going to work on dialing it in and getting your triglycerides. And again, I would set up goals. As we mentioned, your cholesterol to HDL, we want that 4, and triglyceride, we want that under close to 1.5. So I would give you exactly, these are some goals we're working towards, not just your push-ups and running. The second piece is, work on your glucose, your A1C is great. And then we move into homocysteine, and that measures oxidation levels. And that number, ideally, I like to see less than 10, as yours is at 8.7.
Yeah, again, that's another, and you'll see here in a little bit, I mean, I eat a lot of good foods.
Lots of good foods.
In the case of right now, I'm eating just a lot of food.
A lot of volume. Volume size.
But the
quality is pretty good.
A lot of antioxidants.
So that's a good number right there. I'd go, okay, this is good. This measures oxidation. That's going to be foods high in folate. That's the wheatgrass, spirulina, chlorella, dark
Whole
greens,
foods.
colorful. Yeah. And then from there, we move into your highly sensitive CRP, which is at 0.4. Still a good number. That's inflammation. Back to the same thing. And your uric acid, which most people don't measure enough of, is at 5.1. So you still have some pretty good numbers here that haven't not gone off the rails.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see where those move, but also you look at those to connect with these above. So sometimes you look at this, I have 150 tests.
150.
13 of them technically are in a range. I would say some of the numbers that I care the most of are actually in the range. Mm-hmm. And some of the numbers I could care less about are the ones that you're going to get scared about. So it's a full picture we're trying to look at.
It's no different than your financial portfolio. So prostate at 0.4, your PSA is good. Your vitamin D, again, we live in Michigan, is at 43, which is pretty solid. Ideally, we want to see that over 40. Your GFR, everybody out there, you want to know that specific number. Glomerular filtration rate, that's a kidney function. And I always tell people, many times you want to know the specific number, because if you don't, the doctors are going to test you're over 60. Well, that doesn't tell you anything. So at 39 years old, you want a GFR over, yours is 94, you want it over 90. That tells you how well your kidney's functioning. So really interesting for me, my GFR was like 76 a couple years ago. And I'm like, I'm not drinking enough water. So I started drinking more water and it went over 90. So again, it really wakes you up that how am I getting my kidneys to work? All right, so let's talk about testosterone for a second. What were you in 2022?
Yeah, I was looking at, I only had my free, probably in the 700s.
So what's the difference between free and total?
Yeah, total is like, think about that as the total gas tank, and then free is what's in the body. I really like the total, because some people have different.
Yeah, free is the absorbable, and the total is the total. So again, I like to look at the total too. Yours is at 723. And for your lifestyle, as I mentioned to you before we began, I'm kind of surprised it's as high as it is. with the pace and space of your life.
I think because my testosterone has always been pretty high and I've protected it. And so I think it makes sense when you look back, and let's look at the full picture. And I'm going to be fully transparent. This will not happen with most doctors you go and see. I'm just going to tell everybody. And you don't have to know this either, but let's talk about it. If I did get a blood test at 25, which I never did, I probably have a cholesterol and some of that stuff, but not the full panel. I probably would have had a testosterone in the 900s. Okay? And so whatever my cholesterol was part of that equation.
Because cholesterol makes testosterone.
Yes. That's why you want the full
picture.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have a high testosterone. My body was functioning at that, got used to that, wants to keep that. Over the years, as stress and lack of sleep, and you get kids and all these things that go into it, the body's job is to kind of keep you at homeostasis. Mm-hmm. So maybe you have a testosterone when you were 18 and you were doing really well at 500. Maybe that's your baseline. I'm just making up some numbers. So as I've gone through this last 5, 6, 7 years, my body's trying to keep my testosterone where it is normally at. Well, the way that you do that is with cholesterol, because it makes it. And so I do think one of the things that has happened is stress is higher, food's not as good, the body needs to work a little bit harder. And we're seeing that it makes a little bit of sense. So it'll be interesting. Where does testosterone go when we clean up these other numbers? It potentially could stay the same with these other numbers changing.
It's still a thriving number. And again, one of the raw materials for testosterone, as you mentioned, is cholesterol. But nutritionally, it's omega-3 fats like the cod liver oil. It's the omega-6 fats, the healthy ones, the Brazil nuts and pumpkin seeds. So those are raw materials, strength training.
It's sleep.
And
so
sleep.
I
That's
protect,
why it's the rest
out of anything that I do feel like I have enough space and discipline that I really, if there's one thing that I can't get by without, it's 8 hours of sleep.
So back to this, from a goal standpoint, I'd want to keep you, in the 700 to 800 range. For both men out there, I always all my clients over 500, and I like to get all the women over 20 to 25. So again, don't think as a woman you don't need this number. You do, because that will tell you how much rest you're getting or lack of sleep or how you're moving and things like that. But this will all show up.
Yeah, and
there.
I also got my cortisol checked. So, that's the stress hormone, and that was in line too. And going backwards, it's not necessarily is it in line. It's what is it normally? What was it before?
Right. That's why you want to get these baseline numbers.
You could be an 8.4 like I am, but that could be super high, elevated.
Right.
So, again,
you're comparing you to you.
You to you.
All right. So those are some other tests. The other one I like that you got from VO is this omega-6 to omega-3 fat test. Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so
because you're at 7.2.
So part of the panel is nutritional, and it's funny to me is there's some red, and I'm out of balance in some areas, but I'm not out of balance on anything nutritionally, because I do eat a lot of really good foods.
Yeah, you're doing wheatgrass and spirulina carotid, trying to eat healthy, cod liver oil.
Yeah, so I'm not deficient in these nutrients. But let's go again even more into the weeds. So my omega-3 total is 6.0 because I'm taking cod liver oil. I'm getting plenty of omega-3s.
So walk the listeners. What should that number ideally be?
It should be closer to 6. Most people, it's going to be closer to 4. I think yours was
less.
I think yours was 7 point.
Yeah, it's a little
higher. But nobody's talked to me about this. I had to really think about this, but I care a lot about the omega-6 to 3 ratio. And when you dig deep into why we need omega-3s, it's because of this ratio. In our society, we consume a lot of 6s. And you hear seed oil, which is such a bad word for omega-6, but it's processed. We need omega-6s. That's why the ratio tends to be more omega. You always are going to have more omega-6 to 3. Always.
If you're eating out a fair amount, your 6s
will be. And then there's really good omega-6s that we need for our hormones.
Pumpkin seeds, Brazil nuts, hemp seeds.
So when I look at that ratio, that ratio is 7.2. I'd like that to be closer to 5 because it's telling me I'm eating less of the junk 6s. So if I'm with the kids and we go out to eat, is this cooked with vegetable oil? I'm just ordering.
It is what it is.
Yeah, but that telling you that I'm eating more processed foods on the go. So I'd like that to be 5.0. Now, the range is under 14 is good. Again, that doesn't mean good to me. A triglyceride of 135 is not good for me.
No, we're talking about thriving numbers.
Yeah, so that's
you're
the number.
So your omega-6 to omega-3s is a good number. You're just trying to get this to be closer from 7.2 to 5.
Correct.
And so I'm eating less processed omega-6 fats, and that's going to bring this ratio because you're already consuming omega-3 fats. So anyway, for those out there, you're probably never going to have this test unless you really go to the next level, which I think is a great test.
Yeah, I think it's a really good test. So a lot of people say, do I need omega-3s? Well, let's go 95% of the time. Most people do. Don't even look at the test. If you're just a skeptic or like I'm eating so much fish, there is a test out there telling you.
It is a test.
I do cod liver oil every day.
Right.
And if I didn't, that number would be low, and I do eat a lot of fish. So
and that number would be, So anyway, just to let everybody know, it's, again, back to these awareness tools. The last couple I want to talk about has nothing to do with blood tests, but the first one is, again, this is the big three under the Know Your Numbers, but the first one is breaths per minute. So let's talk about that for a second. We've talked about it on podcasts before, but again, I'm coaching. So breaths per minute, they never know. They never know what that, I have no idea. But in the United States, the average breaths per minute is around 20 to 22. So think about that. Every minute, 20 to 22 breaths per minute.
It's kind of depressing because it's gone up exponentially over the last 5 years. If there's not a lot of research around it. James Nestor came out with the book, so there's a little bit more awareness and mouth tape and nasal and whatevers. But here's the deal: we're not managing stress well. And you just think about this podcast is coming out in a time where there's been some very crazy things happening, but that's not going to change. Mm-hmm. We're so much more exposed to it, and so that stress button is always on. And one of the things that happens is we lose the awareness of our autonomic nervous system, which is our breathing.
I'm going to Vegas, as you know.
Your favorite city?
The biggest at the beginning of the week for a women's leadership conference, and I'm a keynote speaker on sleep.
It's a good topic in Vegas.
So the number one thing I'm going to talk about in this is nervous system, because if your nervous system is out of whack, you're not going to sleep. It's not going to be, CBD. It's not going to be melatonin. It's not going to be this special, it's all about getting the nervous system. And that's kind of what you're talking about right now, because if the nervous system's out of balance, you're going to breathe more shallow. You're going to breathe quicker. Right?
You're going to require more magnesium. You're going to leach it out quicker.
Everything. Yeah. Body becomes more acidic, and the list goes on and on. So that's why breaths per minute. And I had a gentleman last night, we were talking on the phone, and he says, how will this affect my blood pressure down the road? I said, well, it'll impact it instantly. But as you practice it more, you become more of a natural nasal diaphragmatic slow breather. So that's why if you're a 20 breath, you could easily move that number down to 15 breaths per minute by doing some of these strategies, and we'll get into that.
It will be the most impactful thing the body needs, that there's no medication, there's no supplement. It's just purely nervous system.
So then I move to the next two.
So I breathe usually between 8 and 12 breaths, but what for me, when I get stressed and going hard, is I hold my breath.
And then when we're sleeping, as you mentioned, it's the autonomic nervous system. You're going to be breathing a little bit more rapid when you're sleeping. It just is what it is, because you're a little more shallow. But again, if you're doing that during the day, being more aware of it, intentional.
And that's back to my goal number one is space. So, Dr. Phil called me a couple of weeks ago and just was checking in, and I was like saying, and he said, hey, and he likes to say, hey, knucklehead, I just need you to do 5 minutes in the morning. And it's not anything I don't do necessarily. It's about the intentionality and the habit of it.
Well, and again, we had that last night, this call. Again, you might not do 5, you might do 1 or 2, but the breathing is everything, because now it's the fastest way to calm the mind, relax the body, balance.
Yeah, I mean,
reset the nervous system.
It's like the massage. So the massage, the first 15 minutes, I'm thinking, oh gosh, it's a Monday.
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on.
And by 15 minutes, you leave there and you're like, what problems can I solve today?
Which leads us into your resting heart rate and blood pressure. So your resting heart rate's right around 45, which I always tell my clients, I like to see the resting heart rate under 60. So that tells me your heart, your stroke volume, all that's working well. And again, part of that nervous system, because again, if it's 45, your nervous system's not going crazy. But that leads us into your blood pressure, which is a 111/70. So 74. So these are all your numbers. So your big three are in good spots. So if your big three are in good position.
For me, my diastolic was a little bit elevated this day.
But not.
And I think again, all these are green. Even my height, weight, circumference, but it's not green for me. My weight says 194, it's green. But that's, again, the point of all of this, and I think it's a good thing, because I could talk through this, but you're asking questions in that different way than me telling you my numbers. I'm very sensitive to how I feel. It's a gift and a curse. So like, nutritionally, I don't really go off the rails because I don't feel very good, and I can't really function.
Yeah, it's the bumpers when you're bowling.
Yeah, my bumpers are pretty narrow. But one of the things I can do, and you can do even better than me, is we can put volume away food-wise.
For sure.
I love food, and I was doing the nutritional diagnostic here with VO, and the questions were, what foods don't you like? There's not a food. Name a food. Beets. I love beets.
Turnips. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So to me, I know my blind spots in some ways, but here's the key. Everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs a coach. I'm coaching 4th grade football. These kids think they're going to the NFL. None of them are any good. They're 4th grade. I'm 39 years old. I do this for a living. I coach people on it. I need a coach. The problem right now with healthcare is most doctors are not coaches. And so the fun part that I'm going through in this journey is I actually have a coach with VO. I have a doctor with VO. I have a dietitian.
Paying the coach more than you paying me.
Poor Chase is is getting taken to
I'm getting a 0.
But anyway, we all need a coach. So if I'm looking at the top, I like golf, but any sport or anything, they all have coaches. And none of it is that you don't know it. It's that how are you going to do it? And so that's the difference here. My job over the next 6 months is not really anything that I don't know. It's thinking through how am I going to do it in different season of my life.
Well, I think the other thing too, it gets to be exciting because now you're on this journey.
Yeah.
You're intentional. You kind of see what you're doing, measuring, whatever, not being perfect. But again, back to the big three, just one last second here. Everybody needs to know how many breaths you take per minute. Just need to check it out. A really simple exercise is lay on your back, close your eyes, and just maybe you set your phone for 3 minutes, and how many inhalation, exhalations, that's one breath. How many do you take? And be intentional about it. So I always do that exercise with my clients. I want them to create that awareness. Number 2 is like, can they blow up a balloon? How many breaths does it take? So that's the diaphragm. The resting heart rate, everybody needs to know their resting heart rate, and they need to know their blood pressure.
Yeah, and just I'll be transparent. I'm actually going to do a VO2 max, which is, again, not something anyone has to do, but it's going to even go to the
another level.
Another level.
But if your resting heart rate's pretty good, I already know your stroke volume, which the contraction of the heart's good. So that tells me as you age, again, back to that, as you age, everybody tells you your resting heart rate goes up. It doesn't have to, along with your blood pressure, if this piece is your heart and the connective tissue and your nervous system and everything else is in balance, that will tell you what a lot.
And one last thing, because since I got all the data, I might as well do it. I'm going to utilize a wearable for tracking a heart rate variability and doing some sleep stuff, just so I have the data.
So you have the data to share.
Yep.
But I think leaving here today is now we've created some awareness of where you're at, and then some strategies that will be coming on how do you improve this. But the first step is being curious, asking questions, tackling beliefs, and then create some metrics around those, because you need to measure somewhat of where you're at and having the courage to do that.
Yeah, and I think back when you have a photo when you first did the masters bodybuilding, where you got up to like 210, 205. About that, is that what?
Well, my first contest in '85, I got up to 230.
Yeah, but I'm talking when you were 40 plus.
Yeah, I was 40 plus. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I was probably 205, 210.
Yeah, so I look at myself in that same space. I'm going to turn 40 in June. The point of it is to not say, sometimes we look at aesthetics and we think, well, that person's healthy or not healthy or whatever. It's really the full package. At the end of the day, and I say this and it's not any test, it's like, how do you feel? I feel good. I don't feel great. Some people, my good could be their great.
Yeah,
Some people,
it's individual.
It's individual. And so
I think one other thing we don't talk about, and we'll kind of end with this, but one of the things when I'm coaching people like to compete, they're getting ready to compete. I don't want them to do, like I look at your B12, all your B vitamins, those are normal because you're eating good stuff. So I don't want them doing stupid stuff. I don't want them dehydrate themselves, cutting the carbs out. We're going to do a healthier version of that. But as people start going down this rabbit hole, is they start eliminating things and they're trying to get to a certain level in being unhealthy, and that doesn't have to happen. So I think that's the big thing we're trying to accomplish here is like, okay, if I want to get leaner, how do I do that? Well, one of the greatest things that if you're overtraining is your resting heart rate starts to go up. And then number two is, what's your elimination look like? So when you're eating too much volume of food, your bowel movements are too much, and you don't have to get crazy with it. But I always knew when I was getting closer that my bowel movement started to change. I wasn't eliminating as much because I wasn't eating as much. And then I thought to myself, do I really need to eat all that food? And obviously the answer is no. So just to let everybody know, on your journey, your body will all do what it's supposed to do. Heart rate gets better, blood pressure gets better. If I'm overtraining, I'm not sleeping, or my resting heart rate goes up. So again, there's lots of ways the body is kind of keeping you in this homeostasis, but things start to change because you're putting it in that position to change.
And one last thing that you kind of triggered. So when my digestion changes in the sense of, you're just a little bit too full or you're eating too much volume, my nervous system changes. When my nervous system changes, I don't handle stress as much. When I don't handle stress as much, you get more anxiety. When you get more anxiety, you then think, oh my gosh, it all is connected. And so I'm going to talk about those things. I'll discuss those things. One last piece. I'm 39 years old. Like I said, 50% of 59-year-olds, and it's probably higher, are not going to the depth of these things. They're getting their blood pressure and a couple things checked and making sure that they're alive. It's like the pulse, like we're getting the pulse. Ooh, great. Why do I need to go to a doctor to get my pulse? We don't have to be a doctor to check our pulse.
Right.
The problem that I'm seeing and I'm worried about is this kind of shines a light that just because a number's out of balance does not mean you're a risk factor. I would argue for many people, by the time they get their blood checked, there's probably a symptom associated with making sure that they do that. Mm-hmm. And then once they do that, most people, what if your testosterone was 200 and your cholesterol was 195? I would say your body's not functioning the way it should.
Not at all.
Something crashed. Now, you haven't had your blood checked in 30 years. And so we don't have a full picture. And so if there's one thing that can happen out of this, I highly recommend, even if you think you're the fittest or unhealthiest and you don't have the courage to measure, these numbers, this awareness, the ability and curiosity, to me, is how we take control of our health.
I went and got a physical, and Dr. O'Connor did this a long time ago, but when I was getting ready for this contest, I thought, before I start this, I want to make sure, because I got big. I mean, I was 230, bulk up, whatever. I had no clue what I was doing.
You're talking in 1985.
1985, yeah. And so I went and got my CPK level, which is, you have a CPK level for your heart muscle, but then you have skeletal muscle. Well, my CPK level, and I had this professor in college, and so after I got this test, I took it to her, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen such high CPK levels," because I was overtraining. I would have never known that. So my CPK level is over like 1100, and it should have been 400 or less. So this is why you want to get
You look like the Hulk.
Yeah, I was just...
But doesn't mean that you're thriving.
I wasn't thriving.
One last point. I don't know if you've seen The Rock lately. He's lost, 50 pounds of muscle. And one of the, again, we don't know him. We don't have insight, but one of the kind of rumors is that his heart was really overworking, probably using steroids and testosterone.
Yeah.
And so just because of the way you look, and we're seeing this where people... I can see some people right now that look actually pretty good, but they got the vacillation. They're really jacked. They look like their eyes are going to bug.
I had a guy yesterday. I had to go to Kroger to get some water for our movers, and this guy's sitting on his motorcycle, and he's got a tank top on. This guy's pretty muscular guy, and he's smoking a cigarette and drinking an energy drink while he's sitting on his motorcycle.
But he looks good.
Looks good. So again, the goal is, everybody, you can look good, but we want you to feel and be your best. That's the goal.
It's a full package.
Full package.
Thanks for coaching. I'm going to send that check to you in the mail.
I'll be looking for Venmo.
Yeah. So again, hey guys, as you follow me on this journey, I'm going to blog once a week. I'm going to share pictures and numbers and check-ins and challenges and all the real stuff that I do think can help people. Do it through a grain of salt. We're not trying to say this is what it should be or could be. It's my journey, but I think along the way you'll learn a couple nuggets on how you can impact your journey, ask better questions, have that curiosity. And before anything else, my journey is about going from feeling good to feeling great. See you again next time.